Can you recall how each of you got the acting parts for Mission to the Unknown?
Oh, good heavens above, that's 35 years ago, and I suppose that my agent was rung up by Derek Martinus, who directed it, did he not?
That's right, he did, yeah.
And so he had he was bold enough to ask for me, and my agent was silly enough to send me along. But wasn't I grateful, because it's the most, one of the most interesting episodes, and the only one that hasn't got a Doctor Who.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I don't know why I was chosen to be a plant, because I don't have very much to do in it.
You got green fingers.
But yes, I must say, yes, they probably knew I was quite a good gardener. And I did specialise in dyeing rather a lot. I remember my daughter said to me, you like being in Doctor Who, Daddy, don't you, because you get killed in the seams. She pronounced it seams.
Oh, it seams.
Yes.
It's very uncomfortably killed in the seams, isn't it?
So I was obviously always killed in the seams. Yeah, your turn.
Yeah, well, mine. I was up in Edinburgh doing the Edinburgh Festival, and we were doing the Scottish play, Macca's, and I was playing Macduff, and I had some time off. And I'd been in Doctor Who before, and so they phoned me up and sort of said, are you free for a week? Because we filmed our bits in 1 week. And I said, well, yeah, I've got some, it was a 3-week rehearsal period, I think, so I had a middle week off. And so I whipped down to London and did the Doctor Who, and then whipped back up to Edinburgh and continued doing the Bard. So that's how I came on.
Well, you were lucky to have 2 jobs at once, weren't you?
That was the last time I worked. I'm so grateful for this tonight.
We go to the next question for Edward.
Oh.
What was it like playing the mysterious special agent Mark Corey and being hero of the show for a week?
Well, I never thought that I was the hero of the show for a week. I thought you were the hero of the show for a week.
Stop it. You were the hero.
Or Jeremy. Well, I like being, I don't think I was all that mysterious, but I suppose as the episode drew on, it became clear that I wasn't exactly what I seemed to be at the beginning, and then I became frightfully grumpy and cross with everybody and killed most of you. In fact, I did.
Yes,
I killed you all.
Yeah, you shot me.
I killed you all.
You were trained to kill, really. So.
Oh, yes, I was trained to kill.
You were
exactly.
a sort of CIA
undercover
man.
I was Dick Barton with the reverse side of Dick Barton, really. Dick Barton, special agent.
So I was snowy then.
Not a pretty
job.
Yes, that's right.
Not a pretty side.
Fairly northern, but
I've got a bit northern there.
But I was certainly the most efficient killer of the lot, apart from the Daleks, who of course killed me, but then I did actually slip the tape recorder.
Yes, right.
So I was very pleased with myself about that.
What was it, sort of 19 and 6/8 in that tape recorder from Dixon's?
I don't think Dixon's existed. It was Curry's, wasn't it?
Yeah. But I love the line in it saying, this looks like an ordinary tape recorder, really, if you know. And that was the thing about the wrench. They gave us to repair the spaceship. I was banging away with this hammer and chisel and a wrench. And I said, come on, they'd have some sort of...
At least some kind of surgical implement.
A laser gun or something.
I've forgotten that, because that big shot of that wrench.
I couldn't believe it.
But we did have quite nifty guns, didn't we? I mean,
that was extraordinary.
Quite up to date.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, it was. It was just, I couldn't believe it, These old Model T Ford repair kit. Anyway, that's that one. Next, it's you, Edward.
Yes, all right.
Yeah. Okay. This is a biscuit tin bargain.
Question for Barry.
Oh, right.
Right. You only really appeared in several... What? You only really appeared in several scenes of Mission to the Unknown. Do you have any memories from your brief appearance?
Yes.
Oh gosh, well, it seemed to be endless in this fact, because to grow into a plant requires a bit of fluff on a hand, then it requires a bit more fluff. You go back into the makeup room, a bit more fluff on the feet, and then a bit more, and it seemed to be endlessly going backwards and forwards, getting a different bit of fluff on. It seemed to take a long time.
Fluffing your lines a bit.
Yes, that's right. No, I hardly had any, didn't it? But
I must. Kill.
Yes, kill.
Yes.
Watching that, which was extraordinary because it was, well, their face was taken for another thing. But I remember, and I hope this isn't, I'm sure this is right. I remember in a makeup room, because they put me in, because I was in and out, I was constantly going in and having this fluff put everywhere and costumes. And I remember Susan Hampshire being in a chair, being made up, not too pleased, I don't think, that this fluffy individual was next door doing a one-line part. She was
doing something else, was she?
I think.
Yeah,
Well,
it's a lovely lady.
it's a lovely lady.
Oh, she's smashing.
But while we were watching that, I don't know.
Was it Forsyth?
But why would I be in the same room? But there you are.
Maybe you asked.
But I just yes, that's right. Yes, that's all I have to that I can remember. Though.
Right, Jeremy, it's your turn to do.
Well, that's where we first met, I think, wasn't it? On that.
That's
Oh,
right.
You actually.
So I read your question
If
for
you like
everyone.
one.
Any recollections of the director, Derek Martinus, or of the producer, Verity Lambert?
Yes.
Go on then.
Cool, Verity. Yeah. Yes, because I remember when I was first approached for the because I did the very first adventure of Doctor Who when we went back to cavemen times. That was the very start of the whole thing. And I remember her and Boris Hussain, who was the young,
Boris Hussain.
Yeah, was the young director.
Right,
And it was his first telly. And they took me out to lunch and sort of said, we've got this new thing called Doctor Who. And I thought, Doctor No, because that was obviously they said, no, this isn't, it's Doctor Who. That's the James Bond thing, Doctor No. And, would you like being in it, etc. And then they broke it gently, then wanted to be in the caveman outfit and all the rest of in skins and God knows what.
Having your leg off.
Yeah. And also, did I know of any other actor that would, because we had a fight to the death right at the end between myself. I was a leader of one faction. We were trying to find fire, and he who finds rediscovers fire. That was like this. It was a great performance. Desperate. Will lead the tribe, you see. And so, Derek, crikey, played. He was a National Theatre player in the end. But we had this
Not
fight.
Derek Newark.
Derek Newark, thank you.
Or Derek Ware.
No, Derek Newark. No, Derek Ware arranged the fight.
Yeah.
Derek Newark, yeah. It's because Derek and I were about the same size and was belligerent with each other. So we played rival leaders of the and they filmed this fight to the death, and we tried to make this animal. I said, look, these are animals. And we have this script, and these scripts used to be so long in those days. And I said, the most erudite cavemen that you've ever. So I said, let's cut a lot of this and sort of just use grunts. Let's be careful of frightening the children.
Oh, is that
that's right, yeah. First of all, he obviously kills me. He sort of gets this great stone and bashes my head in, And
charming.
Yeah, no, first of all, and then garrots me, and I was thinking, oh great, scream. He said, no, cut the screams. Frighten the children.
They're already behind the sofa with Doctor Who anyway. At this stage.
And then we had these skins, and we were just wearing, and underneath, because we're tossing and turning all over the place in this animal fight we were having, and so for modesty's sake, we had these sort of little fur bikini pants on, you see. And junior points of view used to actually ring up and sort of ask for it to be shown, just that bit of the fight, and used to stop the action to see what the best dressed, the well-dressed cavemen are wearing, these little white front shorts with a bit of fur on them. So that was quite fun. But I don't know what the question was.
Well, it was about Verity and.
Oh, Verity,
Derek,
of course, that's right.
Derek,
Yeah,
Verity and Derek.
Well, that was her first. It was Verity's first show as a producer, because she'd been working over on the other side for ITV as a production assistant to one of the leading directors over there, and so it was all new people actually. She was great. But you could sense because she's now one of the most powerful people in television. But you could sense even then, as a young woman, she knew where she was going. She had a mind, quite a strong mind, and she started, even though it was her first job, she started to guide the thing, course, I mean, nobody knew it was going to sort of turn out the way it did, and successful as it did. But that's my first memory of Verity. Yeah.
Did you work with Derek again?
Derek Martins? No. No, I didn't.
No, I don't think any of us did we? That was it. Oh God!
No, I didn't. But I did work with the late lamented Derek Newark.
Oh yes, because he's not with us now, Derek.
No, he's not.
Yes. Oh yeah. Because he actually went on to be a leading National Theatre player. Derek. Yeah.
But Verity produced a thing, and I had two names at that time: Jack Barry and Barry Jackson. Jack Barry was a fight arranger, and I did the fights. Which he was the producer on Adam Adamant.
Oh, I did one of those.
Do you remember?
Yeah, I did one of those. Yeah.
And that's where we would have met again. I think.
Ah.
Yeah, she was a producer on that, which was Gerald Harper. Wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. I did a fencing fight with her. Yeah. I shall draw a veil over there.
Right. So we'll do another.
Oh, God, I'll draw one. Okay. Question for everyone: what is it like doing virtually live TV? Were there any retakes? Have you ever done live TV?
Well, the answer is yes, and it was pretty frightening. But I mean, I don't know, somehow or other you squeezed the lines out of your brain and got on with it. But I mean, Doctor Who wasn't live, but it might just as well have been, because there was very little capability of editing, or it was very expensive.
That's right. You had
and so you really had to do it in one.
Yes. Well, they could go back on a block of sort of half an hour, but they hadn't learned, because the sound was so far away from the vision at that time. I think they couldn't do something about editing. No. They couldn't do it for quite a long time.
No, so you might just as well have been.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you weren't reliable and kept on hiccuping, you wouldn't be asked to.
Some people like that live effect. In fact, they use that in Z-cars and softly.
Right.
Deliberately to try and. But I remember doing Henry V at before White City, before the television centre was made. Things were shot down here in Hammersmith, in Riverside Studios.
Yes. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And I remember we were doing Henry V, where he arrives back at Southampton. The director was displeased in rehearsal because we were all a bit floppy, and he said, "Come on, you know, this has affected history for 400 or 500 years. It was grandfathers talked about it, great-grandfathers talked about it. Whole families remember this extraordinary Battle of Agincourt. For Christ's sake, somebody really think of a line to say." When Harry comes back, you know, and he arrives in Southampton, everyone must think of something to shout at Harry. Well, so we were all thinking, "Noble Harry!" and all this sort of thing went on. It was live, and it was Robert Hardy playing in Henry V. And he came off the boat, and we were all shouting, "Whoa!" and all this sort of thing went on with our special lines that we thought. And then there was the inevitable little silence in a little space, and this extra said, "Lovely fight, Prince."
Oh yes.
You know, we were all shouting, but it was just that little time.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
And the other memory of live television is we were scaling battlements in one of the battle sequences. It couldn't have been Agincourt. And we were climbing up these ladders up to this tower, and they were throwing these boulders down, which of course were made of polystyrene. And I was going up with a spear like this, a bit like the character in this. I was going up with a spear, and this huge polystyrene, about 300 pounds in weight, went on top of my spear like a great big lollipop. So I looked so stupid at the top of this ladder. So I whispered, rather like in that thing in the Scottish play, "The Boots Boys and Kick Me, you know, in that story. I said to the guy, I whispered to the guy as I got at the top of the ladder with this, struggling with it, I was going, "Oh!" making it look heavy, and I said, push it. He pushed the ladder, and I went, "Oh!" But it was very funny. I'd love to have seen it. Anyway, that's my memory of quick memory. Sorry.
When we first entered, it was live telly anyway, black and white type folks. But it was, and we were used to just appearing on stage, and they used to shoot stuff as if it was a stage play anyway. You used to rehearse it like a stage play, and then used to go on, and they used to most of the time shoot it from A to Z, just like a stage, instead of cutting it into bits.
3 acts.
Oh, that's 3 acts, yeah. And I remember one guy died on television live.
Oh Lord! In that in
Theatre.
the underground,
Yes.
it was a sort of post Third World War, wasn't it? In the underground,
But he actually died. But
he actually physically.
and this is macabre, but luckily it was for ITV, and they had obviously the adverts, and so there was a break,
Oh my!
and the director, the guy slipped out of just died, and so they raced down during the 2.5 minute break, and sort of said, right, I'll okay, right, shift him out of the way. I'll get I'll do it from the floor. I'll call the shots from the floor.
Gosh.
And actors, you say this, you say that, you say that, you say this, and cover for him. Right, we're on studio, and studio 3, 2, 1,
Amazing.
cue. And the actors did it.
Now it happened with Charlie Drake in a sequence. I happen to know there were two stuntmen. There was a huge man. The bigger they are, it seems they got the higher the voice. But he used to talk like that. He's Cockney, he used to talk, hello, Jack, he said. Anyway, he was a huge man. They had this fight with Charlie Drake, which ended up with Charlie Drake going out of the window, doing one of his dives. And Charlie Drake got knocked out on the corner of a bookshelf during this.
Oh, that's right.
And he was completely knocked out.
Yeah.
And so these stuntmen were slightly different now. They're now ex-Marines and they're very sharp now, SAS men. But in those days it was like, they were a bit like that, And they looked at the camera. These guys were in the middle of this fight, but suddenly there's no protagonist. But he's on the floor, knocked out. And they look at one another, and the cameras are on them. It's all live. And the guy thinks the camera might be cutting here. They had monitors around, you see, and he was going like that, pointing down, like that, pointing for the director, whoever it was, Charlie on the floor. And then, presence of mind, after a few minutes of this sort of boring thing, he picked him up, and he thought, well, the end of the scene was him going out the window, so I'll throw him out the window.
Threw him out, that's right, yeah.
So he picked him up like this, and because Charlie was small, and Stan was a huge man, he picked him up like that. And as he got him right to his ear, so he could whisper to him, he said, "You're going out the window, Charlie. You're going out the window." And threw him out the window. Of course, Charlie was hospitalised because of that.
Yeah, he tells that story.
Oh dear, oh dear.
But in those days, if you did like an armchair theatre on a Sunday, or Sunday night theatre as it used to be called as well, if it was repeated on a Thursday, they didn't film it because it was live. You came back and just repeated it again. You just did the show again. But you're used to doing that because we were theatre actors.
The floor manager had a button.
Oh, that's right.
It looked
yes.
like
a cutout.
and it cut out. The whole station cut out.
Yeah.
So you'd all be talking,
If somebody drives.
and then it would be absolutely dead silent. You could hear. It was a palpable silence.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
the station was dead, and she'd say your line,
That's
and
right,
then
yeah,
click, and
yeah,
on it.
if you
that's
drive,
on
yeah.
again.
Oh
But
boy.
in the Z cars, they had Brian Blessed was in, and they had half a car in the studio, and people were sort of shaking it a bit, the stagehands, and he was in the car with Jock, with Joe Brady, and there'd be back projection going on, you see, and they'd drive along, and then it's supposed to come to an end. The scene came to an end, and Jock's supposed to say, "Well, we can get out," and Brian noticed that the back projection was still going. I wouldn't get out to get the Jock out. We're still going 40 miles an hour. Oh yeah, that's right. I was just.
The thing about those boys is that nobody, I think one of them, or one or two of the four, had a driving license. So the guy who,
that's right.
can't remember his name now, he's a smashing chap, who rented the cars to the BBC, he used to lie down. And do the gear change. When they were shooting down the road, he actually used to do it all underneath their knees.
Yeah. Wonderful. I remember shooting the thing because my first day was Deadline Midnight, and that was live. And then we filmed it later. But Peter Vaughan, and we were supposed to be in Intrepid reporting it, and he was playing the editor, and I was phoning in my story. And then it's supposed to come to the part where he answers me, and I looked across the studio, and his camera was sort of like this. You see, the cameraman, I don't know, thought, well, I've got nothing to shoot at the moment. So he just had to keep talking. He just kept talking and talking and talking until somebody found the cameraman and
Told him he was on. Yeah.
And the other thing was, if they wanted you, that was the other thing, wasn't it, where you come to a scene, and they wanted you to maybe appear the next day in something, and different clothes and things. And so you'd be having a two-hander, and the camera would come past you and onto that person's face as a close-up. And as soon as the camera went past,
you rushed,
belt
the change
like hell across the studio, people dragging sort of stuff off you, putting a raincoat on you, you know, and a hat, and then you'd be on the phone
and
or something.
sometimes doing a scene with the wardrobe person just doing up your,
doing up twice. That's right. Yes. Yeah.
There
Anyway.
was in Tale of Two Cities, there was the storming of the Bastille. There was the fighter ranger. It might have been you.
No,
I think it was.
I didn't do it.
Anyway, he had a white shirt on, and he was frankly good at the sword. He died about 7 times. You know, and then a minute later he'd be up fighting
doing another one.
Oh yeah.
Killing somebody else, and then and up he'd get. And then there was lots of explosions and smoke and stuff, and then they cut from storming the Bastille to some cosy little tea party in Sussex. And there we all were. Because the Bastille was just next door.
God, yes.
All the smoke was
Racing through.
Oh dear, that was live television.
But then it went into semi-live, didn't it? I remember because I was in the street in Coronation Street for a bit, and I remember it was still scary, and there was very little time. They had time for one retake. That's all, because we used to do 2 shows a week. And I always remember Graham Hutherfield, who's gone now, but as we were counting down and just feeling, right, gotta get it right, please, gotta get it right. Suddenly you hear this voice, something going, goodbye, real world. Dear old Graham. Yeah.
Isn't it time we?
Yeah, another question. Yes. A question for Barry and myself. Edward recalled watching Mission to the Unknown with his son on his knee. Did the rest of you watch the episode sitting on... No, can't be sitting on Edward's knee now. Did the rest of you watch the episode when it was originally transmitted? I didn't, so that's my answer. I'm afraid.
Sorry, that's a quick answer. Let's have another question.
Right, another question.
Right, okay, somebody else please.
Right, I'll do one.
No, I'm afraid I didn't. That's the first time I've seen that. Which is,
Question for Edward and Jeremy. What was it like working with the Daleks? Scary or silly?
Yeah, originally, like you said in the in your preamble to this reconstruction, you looked and you saw in rehearsal they used to actually take the top off the Dalek, and they used to sort of. But there is a Father Christmas, children out there. There is a Father Christmas. But they used to sort of and sit.
They didn't even have that.
Oh well, I remember
just
this.
Squat.
I remember this. So
not in our episode.
Well, anyway, and they sat and trundled around with their feet. They used to, because they're on casters, the actual bottom half, and they used to trundle around with their feet with their arm out, while Peter Hawkins or whoever's doing the voices, exterminate from the sidelines. And I thought, wow, I've never thought the Daleks particularly scary. And honestly, truly, when I was lying there, I don't think it's shown in here, but I was lying there dead after you'd sort of zapped me, half into a Varga plant. Suddenly the Daleks appeared, just trundling, but obviously all done up and made up when they were shooting it. And I really felt, spooky. I can see what it is. Yes, just that moment. Yes, don't like this. Yeah.
I can't quite. I just think of the jungle floor with those casters thing. It would be.
Yeah. Well, yes, yeah. Okay, another.
Yeah. Because I said what I wanted to say about that.
That's right. On the.
Okay. Question for everyone: did you see much filming of the alien delegate scenes in the studio or rehearsals?
I saw none.
No.
We didn't. I think
that was all completely separate.
Yeah.
Yes. You see, if you're not in the particular scene, you wouldn't be called for that day. I mean, that's if it was filmed. That's how it would. Obviously, if it was done in live television on a block, you're all there, rather like a play. But the performances are very separated, aren't they?
Yes,
or were they?
yes. They've seen. Yes, yeah. Even in those days, they started. Round about then, they probably started to separate them.
Yes.
Rather than all we call them.
Possibly.
Yeah.
But it was as much like a film, making a film, as making a television.
Well, we used to they used to call it pre-filming. Then, after that, they pre-filmed everything,
and then shot in the studio, didn't they?
Yeah, that's right.
So then they put it all together.
That's right. Yeah, we filmed the fight at Ealing. Yeah. But
So-
I remember, but I knew Bob Cartland, the actor who played Mr. Big. But I never. It was the first time seeing it tonight because we've just seen the show, your reconstruction of it, and it's the first time I thought, oh my God, I didn't realise that Bob had actually done that part. Yeah. I mean, you can be in a film nowadays and you're all in the same film, but you never meet anybody. Okay. Because they show you
right.
weeks apart.
Barry. Question for everyone. Was it explained to you in advance that the episode was a prequel to the epic 12-part Dalek master plan? And the answer is certainly not, as far as I was concerned.
No.
Well, I knew it was,
Directors tend not to do that. I mean, were you told that?
No, I just told it was actually a link.
Oh, you were told?
I was told this is a link between one episode and the others, and that's why Doctor Who was
William Hartnell.
Bill Hartnell wasn't in it because I thought I'll see Bill again because
because
obviously the
so
other
you were privy to
adventurers.
that kind of information because you were a bit of a star, weren't you? Really, because having done the first one.
I mean, was, is.
You haven't changed, have you? In 35 years. That's a bit of a bitch. Question for Barry. Hello, Barry. You appeared in 2 other Doctor Who stories. Firstly, alongside William Hartnell in The Romans. Secondly, alongside Tom Baker in The Armageddon Factor. Tell us about these 2 actors and any recollections you may have.
I've got a
Tell us
recollection.
about these
I do.
2 actors.
Got a recollection of William Hartnell because
Yeah.
he sort of got. If he dried, he would go what for the other actors. So if you were on with him, you had to cover all the time. And I remember doing a scene with him because I'd had my tongue cut out and was an assassin. So I just remember because I was like that character there, and I remember him going to me. We were on a road somewhere, and I remember him going what to me because he dried, and I went. And I loved doing that.
Well, you built your part up. You have much longer dialogue.
That's the only memory I have of him.
I mean, he was.
The other,
he was. Sorry, yeah, go on. Carry on.
No. I was just flashed through the question.
Yeah, sure.
Because the other thing was the Armageddon Factor where I
with
played
Tom.
Drax, and I read this script. The script came through, and I thought, the description was that Tom Baker is in this cave. I think he's sort of in a cave. And there's a sort of scrabbling, and through a hole in this cave appears this great shock of red hair. And I thought, yeah, I'll do it. Because I wanted a great big shock of red hair, a great big wig of red hair. Because if you're going like us, you tend to, want to be like him.
Not like him.
You want to have really nice hair.
Oh my God.
So that's why I accepted the role. I have to say, it was a nice part too. I was a Time Lord, but this thing really, I was so excited. I went to the read-through, and there was nothing said to me at all. And at the end of the read-through, we read 4 episodes, I think. I said to the director, I'm trying to remember his name. I can't remember his name. But I said to Mike, what about the wig? Nobody in makeup's talked to me. He said, oh, you're right, love as you are. And I was gutted. I was so disappointed. And that's my story of Drax, the Armageddon Factor. Yeah,
I remember. Yeah, Bill. I mean, he was. That's the first time I'd met him. But he was quite an experienced actor.
Well, he'd been doing many films.
Tons of films.
Yeah.
And I think it's to his credit that he took it very seriously. He was a bit irascible. Bill. Yeah. But he took the actual part of Doctor Who, Bill Hartnell, very seriously, I thought, indeed. I mean, he was almost like the guardian of the series, so if he...
Yes, he was very serious
Oh,
about
yes,
it, wasn't he?
especially so.
No, there wasn't like Patrick Troughton, who had a sort of twinkle about
Yeah,
it.
that's right, no. Bill was sort of, he thought, that was...
Well, a lot of people think of William Hartnell only as Doctor Who.
Oh, no, he's...
But in fact, I mean, there are so many like William Hartnell who had great screen careers, film screen
He
careers.
had a long career.
Enormously
all the war
long.
films, he
All the war
was...
films, Sergeant Majors.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But and they think that
Sporting
he
Life.
suddenly came only when Doctor Who came
That's
along.
right.
But in fact, it was towards the end of his career.
Yeah, a bit like John Lemozure in
Yes.
Army.
He's the grandfather of my agent, anyway, so I've got to
Is
say
that
nice
right?
things about
Oh,
him.
right. Did, so I
No,
think
he was nice.
The question for
He was
everyone,
okay.
when you filmed Doctor Who in the 60s, did you expect to still be alive? Oh no, did you say it'd still be of interest 35 years later?
Absolutely not. I mean, that's one of the great phenomena,
Isn't it? Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I think I'll cover that. 'Cause
And
that's-
generations and generations. I mean, there's 3 generations who have taken an interest in
But
it.
it's like anything like that. I mean, what Coronation Street? It started off as 6 episodes or something, didn't it? Florizel Street, they were going to call it one day. But you don't really know if it's going to really take off until suddenly, obviously, the ratings start to come in and it builds upon itself. You know.
Well, the company that we did this, The Age of Kings, Violet Carson was playing various parts in that, and Sean Connery too was in
Yeah.
one. Violet Carson said to me, she used to play the piano for children. Didn't she?
That's right. Yes, and for
She
Wilfred
said,
Pickles at one time.
I think I'm going to stop now, but I do have an interview in Manchester next week for a new series. It would just be very interesting to go, but I don't know what will happen. That's what
Well,
she said.
I know.
Yeah, on Coronation Street.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, no, with no idea. And I don't think the BBC did.
No.
They again started.
But
off,
I said, as I was saying earlier, I was in Birmingham on tour in a play last year, and some guys in a pub were enthralled because they had a Doctor Who club. So it's so popular. When you go to these sci-fi conventions,
yeah.
well, I don't, but some actors do, and
yeah.
and sit there
Yeah.
signing and making, and they actually make.
They have them in
a lot of
America
money.
as well, you know, in the States.
Oh, do they?
So yeah, because I was out in the States. I was out in San Francisco, and I was working out there, and I had some time off. So I decided to do the tourist thing, and I went to this cowboy ghost town thing they set up. And I went in and I had a look at some of all the memorabilia, and suddenly the guy looked at me, and this is a few years later, you know, and he's looked at me and said, hey man, Mark, just stand sideways, you know, because the old profile. He said, yeah, and he took me into the back, and there were pictures of Doctor Who, and you know, and the first episode,
Wow.
of course. He said, you were in the first episode of Doctor Who, and then he got pictures of himself dressed up as Doctor Who, whatever, you know,
Gosh.
and that was in the States.
Yeah.
And this, you're talking about 20 years later, so you
That's
know,
amazing.
all my hair had gone and everything. It's still
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
You've got 2 there.
Sorry. Yeah. Question for Edward: if you'd been asked by the BBC to reprise your role of Mark Horry, would you have done so?
Oh, absolutely, yes. The best thing that any actor can do is to be asked and do a part that he's already played, because you can always do it better. I mean, the first time round is well, hopefully all right, but
But you could have done it better.
but you could. Well, yes, of course I
Shut up.
could. Of
But he
course I
shot
could.
me.
But you always learn from that experience, and to go back to it. And I have been able to reprise 1 or 2 roles over a long period, and it's always wonderful to go back to to a role, because you can't, in time scale, preparing the episode, for instance, of Mission Impossible. What was it called?
Yeah, Mission to the Unknown.
Mission to the Unknown. In that time scale, you can only do what you can do. But afterwards, long after the thing, all that brief but very concentrated piece of experience and rehearsal and work just sort of filters down into you, and so when you come back to it, not that I was ever asked to, but if I were to be asked to do it a couple of years later, all that would have been a basis upon which to do it. And certainly when I played Demetrius at Stratford with Charles Laughton and Albert Finney, and then I did it again on a recording, and it was like a holiday, because you knew so much more about it. The basic work had been done. You had your 4 weeks rehearsal, and you had the experience of playing it. But next time round, provided you're still young enough to play it, all that is still there, plus what you still know, or what you rather have learned since, as an actor generally, not thinking about that part. So it's always better to go and have another go.
Right, yeah.
Provided that you're young enough. I'd hate to be asked to do it
Well,
now.
Sir John Gilbert played was it Hamlet many years.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
he did. But he was, I don't think he ever was too old to play Hamlet because he stopped doing it early enough. But apparently his Richard of Bordeaux was something which he reprised in South Africa, and he was terribly, terribly disappointed in it because he was simply too old for it.
But there's that story of John Gilbert actually. I worked with him. He's a lovely guy, lovely man. He was playing Hamlet. That's right. He was sort of talking to I think it's Harry Andrews, and saying, "Oh, it's lovely. You'll make a lovely Horatio." He said, "But the man who played it before, oh God, it's not very good." Harry Andrews said, "Well, Sir John,
It was me.
I played it. Oh, but John, you improved so much since then. You improved so much."
He was so indiscreet. He used to
He
say,
made the most
he
wonderful
used to say,
Greek
I'm
drama.
so indiscreet, like, and he knew he was
Yes,
indiscreet.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I played. I was in Heartbreak House, and he was in it. He was it in Heartbreak House, and he said the only thing he ever said to me was, "I love what you're doing, but speak up."
There was a wonderful brick he dropped when he was in a film or something, and there was a social occasion, and some young lady sat next to him, and he said, "Oh, I thought you were that terrible actress, Mercedes McCambridge." And she said, "Well, I am Mercedes McCambridge." He said, No, not that Mercedes. Another Mercedes McCambridge.
Yeah.
No, he's lovely. Bless him.
He was a great wonder.
It was wonderful.
Yeah. Question for everyone:
Ah.
Did any of you retain any keepsakes from Doctor Who, or any other acting work you have been involved with?
I'm not a memorabilia person at all. I don't think I have anything. I certainly haven't got anything from that, or indeed anything else. The only things that I keep are good clothes, and I didn't have any particularly good clothes. In
Yeah.
that, I seem to remember.
Yeah. They don't do it now, do
But no, they don't.
They
But I
can-
mean,
they
you
can buy them.
can buy them for sometimes a quarter or a third the price. And I
Yeah.
have got a pair of shoes and a suit,
Yeah.
but not from that.
I kept my because
Wrench.
not from. I've only got one photograph from Doctor Who as a sort of as a caveman in my skins. But from I used to play in the Musketeers. Used to play. We did Three Musketeers on the box years ago. Brian Blessed was Porthos, and Jeremy Brett was D'Artagnan, and I played Athos. Gary Watson played Aramis, and I kept my hats. Still got the two Musketeer hats with all the and a couple of swords.
When do you model them? I mean, would you?
They're stuck up there. Get out of it. Good at it. But I kept one or two things like when I played Macca's, I played the orb. It was actually it's sad now because it was actually a ball with a bit of polystyrene around and painted gold and everything. Of course, the ball is sort of actually deflated. Rather sad looking orb now. And a few scripts. Funnily enough, no Doctor Who scripts except the one we've got now, which is very nice. But one or two scripts from the time. That's all I can think of. But nothing from Doctor Who, I'm afraid. Because in a way, it was just another job, you see. You thought, well,
Yeah.
okay, good, got 4 weeks work or 5 weeks, whatever, however long it took to shoot the first
Yes, had we known
episode.
that, I mean, there are many things that had
Yes.
we known about those cigarette cards or when we were children,
Whatever.
we would
Yes,
get those.
I worked on Hard Day's Night, the first Beatles film. And if I'd have known,
Gosh, yeah.
because I went to school with two of the Beatles, and so we were chatting. I was on it quite a bit, and we were chatting about the old school days. If I'd have known, I'd take my tape recorder.
Oh, what? Yeah.
Because I was there when they were plonking out. Because they used to between takes, they used to sort of plonk out a few.
Practices.
They used to sort of start composing.
Really?
And I think I'm not sure, but it was one of them. Maybe this is apocryphal. Maybe it wasn't this one, but I'm sure it was. I wanna hold your hand. Well, what do you think about this then? I wanna. Yeah, that'll work, won't it? And so they I thought, God, now, you know, worth a few quid.
That's a nice memory.
Yeah, and you read, I'm reading these questions.
All right, question for everyone. What inspired each of you to become actors, and did you have a role model or a childhood hero?
Yeah. Sir Laurence Olivier.
Was it?
Yeah. So I went to see those films, Hamlet and Henry V, and I thought, but really, I mean, in Nativity Play, and I could read before I went to school, and so if you're good at something and you get praise for it as a kid, then of course you. And we went to school about four and a half in those days. Now it was 3.5 when I could read, and so obviously the teacher, if there was any reading to be done, instead of they think, oh, this is an easy bit, just give it to him, you know, give it to him. And from that, and I'm frightened of water. I used to hate swimming, and they used to go swimming, and I got out of it as many times as I could, sick notes and God knows what, and because I found out that those that stayed behind actually did little playlets, and because I could read, I played the greening, you know, coming to tease the toys at night, and so that was really, and I thought I like this. Anyway, that's why I really started. So it's either going to be a professional footballer or in Liverpool, yeah, in Liverpool, yeah. My first part was as a wise man in the Nativity Play. We had these pointed hats. I must be around 4 and 5, maybe 4 or 5. These pointed hats, the cloak. And of course, I didn't know how to take a cloak off. You know? Here's my cloak to keep you warm, right up the top of that. Brought the house down.
You can't remember that.
Little red face going.
Your mum's told you that.
Yes, probably. But that's how I remember. That's the earliest memory I've got of it.
What about your earliest memory in this business?
I haven't got an earliest memory, but I couldn't have done anything else. So.
Why did you say that?
Well, not that I was a very good actor, but I was very bad at everything else. But my mother, my mother did say, she said, you know, she had Bell's palsy towards the end of her life. She was very old lady. She said, you know, one of the reasons why you're an actor. I said, what's that? She said, when I was a little girl, we used to have to perform, and when she was a little girl, we're talking about 1898, and all the lads used to chayak, you know, and they used to, she was born in Hull, they used to rib us, you know, and I had to stand up and I had to do this poem, and the poem went, there was a bee sat on the wall, and it went buzz, and that was all.
And you became an actor.
I love you.
Yeah, that's nice.
And you?
No, well, I remember I wrote an essay when I was 9. It exists somewhere. But why I want to be an actor. So I came from Birmingham really, and I spoke like that. So my parents wanted me to be a bit more middle class. So I was sent to a drama teacher, and that's really, and I think it's for her inspiration that did that. And then I became a child. I did some radio in '51 as a children's hour and stuff like that. And that's how it all started, really.
Cool.
For me.
Right.
Question for everyone. What is your first film or TV appearance?
Go on.
Edward.
Well, there's a wonderful story. Now, who's that very camp person who used to be in all the Carry On films?
Kenneth Williams?
No. Camp of the
Oh,
much older.
yes.
All right.
But it doesn't really matter because he was quite a senior gentleman, and he was being interviewed.
Hawtrey.
Charles
Hawtrey.
Yeah. Charles Hawtrey was being interviewed, and he was being very charming to the interviewer, and in the end, the interviewer said, "Now, Mr. Hawtrey, would you tell me when you did your first movie?" He said, "Oh, now that's a very outrageous question. That's very personal. I'm not going to tell you that, but I can tell you that my first talkie was in 1932.
Oh, wow.
First talkie. What was the question?
What was your first film or TV appearance?
Oh, yes, well, I can remember that. That was
1898. No, it was your mum.
Roman Spring and Mrs. Stone. And
yes, it was.
my son had just been born, And I had one day on this film
Vivian Lee.
with Vivian Lee and Robert Beatty, and I had to have a monkey. I mean, I had to cuddle and befriend this monkey. And it was a monkey it was a Humboldt's woolly monkey from a pet shop. It wasn't trained or anything. And so it peed all over me. It nicked my maraschino cherry and it was a lady monkey, and I was the gigolo of Mavis Villas, and this monkey was so possessive and so jealous and bit everybody inside, and all the ladies.
Who came near them?
Oh yeah, everybody was rushing off to the nurse. And having Derris dust or whatever it was on these terrible bites.
Yeah.
But this monkey thought the world of me.
Oh,
That was my first. That was my first.
My first TV was Deadline Midnight. We had a series about newspaper. I've spoken about this before. We had a series about newspaper people, which ITV started, ATV, out at Highbury Barn, the ATV studios. In fact, I opened ATV studios because we moved from Highbury Barn to the new ATV studios out at Elstree. And many years later, about 20 odd years later, I closed ATV studios with another desperate, awful series. But Deadline Midnight, with all being... funny enough, I went round the Mirror. I went round the Mirror with a young Desmond Wilcox, because he was a reporter on the Mirror at that time, and to get some experience, work experience before Stanislavski stuff, you know. I went round with him on some stories. He was quite a tough cookie. I mean, he was like a foot in the door, tough reporter actually. And I based the character on Des Wilcox. And then of course he went into television and was married to Esther Ransom. But that was my first TV.
Mine was the insect play, and I played an ant. Patrick Troughton played another ant. Richard Wordsworth played another ant. Anna Cropper played the mayfly. It was full of extraordinary. It was an amazing play. We did that at Riverside.
She managed to build
It was about 100. She was,
Yeah.
and it was about 110 degrees inside the studio.
Oh, I remember it.
It was so hot. It was extraordinary. We were in those days. They didn't have when you were in a costume. We were in ant costumes. You know what it's like, and it's felt in those days. It's not, you don't have a built-in fan like you would now. And we were all dying, really nearly dying, passing out. And that's what I remember. Anyway, that was my first television.
Filming, I can't remember. You know, big grown-up films, big films. There's comedies. Rotten to the Core, John Belting.
You must have done the B films and stuff like that.
No, I didn't do it.
Did you do it? No, I didn't.
No, I never cast. Ronnie Curtis used to come in casting. He had a sort of squint, and he'd say you and you and you, and the rest of you can, you know, bugger off. Yeah, because Mike Caine used to be around at that time as well, sort of looking for work, you know. Yeah, I used to do some of those movies. But I don't know. It's mostly television, really. I've actually
But it's
my
all
living in and theatre, of course.
40 years ago.
Yes, you've got to be talking.
When was the clip? When was 2001 made? Does anybody?
Oh, God, that's some time ago. I worked with Hitchcock.
Because I went up for that. I went up for one of the monkeys in there.
Oh, did you?
And it was because my mum had said to me, why don't you buy a cine camera? I said, I can't afford it. Anyway, I had another agent. I had an agent for a cabaret act in those days, for this Jack Barry character. I used to tumble. I used to teach tumbling and stuff. And they said, there's a day's shooting down at Cliff Richard Picture down not at Pinewood, it would have been at MGM Studios. So I went down to be hanging from a roof and dropping into a tub of whatever it was. The boys were going by on their bikes in Greece or wherever they were and knocked this chap who's knocked his ladder, and I fell into this thing. Robert Morley was there that day, I remember. But this booker, who was a circus agent, said, while you're there, go and see, I want you to come and see the 2001 set, which I'm doing all the harnesses for. And I saw that extraordinary scene where the man is walking around the spaceship, and it's like a long walk, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Bill Sylvester.
Kubrick was the first to have monitors, to use monitors, and he was in a box somewhere else. And through this gap, there were these drums. They were about 200 feet Christ, there might have been more, but in the big Bonds, one of the big stages, it wouldn't be the Bond stage, it's Pinewood, but there were two huge drums, and there was a gap like that, a very thin gap, and an extraordinary piece of steel through it, titanium, something really strong. And the camera was on the other side of that, so the two drums were moving, and the guy was able to walk towards the camera, and the drum moved, and then this guy, this circus agent, who harnessed all these people who were working and harnessed and going upside down, and amazing scene. But then I went up for this one of these monkeys, and Kubrick went along the road, and then we were recalled, and then they came through. This agent said, "Do you want to do this?" And I said, "No, I don't think I do." Because, and anyway, I'm really glad I didn't. Although it would have been really nice in retrospect to maybe have played it. But apparently that too was in costumes, in monkey costumes in Wales, and in a heat wave. So they had people passing out, and Kubrick was I don't know whether you'd ever watched it.
No, I didn't.
Well, he wasn't so much a martinet, he just would say sack him. If he was very quietly would say, sack that guy, he's a problem. And he was just, he was an amazing director, because I worked on another couple of things. Another airplane.
Yeah.
But yes, he'd say, Kubrick actually said this on one of the films. It was like a Barry Lyndon, and he said to the first assistant, and we were filming in Glastonbury, and it was very near Yeovilton where Prince Charles learned to fly a helicopter and all that. It's a very important airplane, what is it, not Marines, what do they call it? The Navy flying.
Royal Marines?
Something else.
No, it was the Fleet Air.
Fleet Air, whatever it is, anyway, they trained there. And there were planes going constantly, and Kubrick said, "What's that plane?" And the first assistant said, "Well, we're near." He said, "Get rid of it." And the first assistant had to go and ask them to fly in some other area. That's how powerful he was. Sorry, we've digressed.
No, yeah.
Let's have another.
That was another question. Another question.
Yeah, okay. Question from everyone. Apart from Mission to the Unknown, which piece of your own acting work are you most proud of? I'm not particularly proud of Mission Unknown. Oops, shouldn't say. I was rather stiff in Mission Unknown. I don't know. I
Find
suppose
something else, dear.
Yeah.
Find something
you don't.
yeah.
This is for everyone, though.
I know. You find yours.
Oh, I see another. Oh, I see. Sorry.
That you're really proud of.
I don't know. Macca's, I suppose. A Scottish gentleman. And
Where did you do that?
Sergeant Musgrave. Up in that was Dundee. I did that. I played Macduff in the festival, and then 6 weeks later. They came along and said, "We saw you playing Macduff. I think you make a good Macbeth."
We'd like
so
you to die.
Yes, that's right. Yes. So I did that. And Musgrave, I enjoyed playing Musgrave. And a lot of comedies and lots of stuff. Weekly Rep was great. I used to enjoy it. Yeah. In a way. Well, looking back in retrospect, probably, but we had some good times. Playing a week, hairy times. I used to love doing the comedies. Because I very seldom get to play comedy on looking where I do.
Cross,
villain for that. Some good parts. I mean, I used to sort of do the Avengers, villain for that week in the Avengers or whatever. But very seldom. I played a comedy with Roy Kinnear, which was quite funny.
Oh, yeah. What a lovely man.
Oh God, he was impossible.
It's wonderful that twinkle.
Because you sort of work with him and you'd be, I was trying to. And suddenly he'd start to twitch in the corner of his mouth, and next minute the tears would be pouring down your face. And we had to stop rehearsal with that. I can't. I've said I'm so sorry. Said the director said, "No, it's all right. That's great. It's looking good. We'll break for the day. We'll come back tomorrow."
Because they're on the variety side, You know how we're all reaching for our glasses to read these sort of things.
Come on,
well, I
else.
remember Mac and Roy Kinnear was in this driving the car, and I remember reaching for the glass, and he just went. And produced this huge magnifying glass, which he just went, with the magnifying glass in that lovely way he did. Question for everyone: what of each of? Well, what was that last question?
Well, it's something
your
about
favourite thing, because we didn't have your favourite thing.
I beg your pardon, actually. Apart from Mission to the Unknown, which piece of your own acting work are you most proud of?
Well, I did a thing called Horace for sort of subnormal Yorkshire character in a series.
That's right,
Well, it was a
yeah.
BBC
You
Two
put it
play
there.
first, and then I did a series.
Yeah.
Love doing that. And you know, strangely, when you look back, there's only, for me anyway, there's only when I see something, or I'm hardly ever surprised. You know all the tricks, don't you?
Yeah.
And when you are surprised, it's a lovely thing to see. Something when even when you've done a take and it's surprised you, it's a good moment, and that's what that's sort of spontaneous. It's just a surprise, and that's when normally when you're watching television. Oh, yeah, I've seen it before. Trick. Yeah, I know that. You know. Then occasionally you see something. And for me, it's about 5, not many more than about, out of 200 or so, there's about 5 things that have surprised me. But generally, we're like anybody, we're just trying to be better, like you said.
Yeah.
We're always trying to be better. Even when you're in a play, every night in a play, it's extraordinary how it wanders off the mark sometimes. Or you can go for almost 6 months and still be pursuing that perfect performance, can't you?
Yeah.
And that's what I find, it's fascinating, and it's hard, because you can never quite
You
get
can
there.
never achieve it. You can
Never quite get
No,
there.
it's like
There's always something.
the great golfer will say, well, that was a 63, but it could have been a 62 or a 61.
Yeah.
And there is, and even less, and even less, and even less. And there is no perfect.
As you said, that was 100 or 101, and I might get it down to 98.
Yes, well, yes, sure.
But it's very difficult in television
Yeah.
filming, because there are 40 people out there
Yeah.
who are all dealing with their own part of the game, and there's you here, and until you all gel together, and it takes a while for the camera to get it right, the sound to get it right, and everybody else to get it right. By then you may well have died in your performance, you know, and it's very difficult for them all to come up together. And it's a very interesting industry, you know, the film and television industry.
I can't take any pride in any of the stuff that I do on the screen. I'm quite proud of some of the stuff I've done on the radio, because I'm very self-conscious on the screen and in front of a camera. On the radio, the microphone, I have no self-consciousness at all, and in the theatre I have very little self-consciousness. So I can't really say, because I've never seen it or heard. Well, some of the stuff I have heard, and some of the stuff I've been quite happy with. But the best work I've done, the most work I've done, is on the stage. And I only have feedback from that.
Yeah, that's right. There's no filming. Somehow I think, thank God, you know, I was talking about those 2 parts. I'd probably hate to see them, actually.
I know.
On screen now, I think, oh no.
When I did a film for Putnam,
Yes.
which was Goldcrest, which Warner's took over, Mr. Lull, and I mean, it was a part of a lifetime in a way, because Ian Holm was going to do it originally. And I was committed to doing it, but I sort of didn't like the script, really. And I was struggling because the character wasn't at all animated, you know, and I found it was a wonderful part to play, and people liked it, but I hated watching it. I just hated the character was so boring for me, you know, and so it's very difficult to actually...
You're a very bad judge of your own work. One is a very bad judge of one's own work on screen, I think, because you see so much of yourself,
Yeah, I could do that
and you
better,
don't
yeah.
see yourself as others see you.
Thank God.
Go on.
All right, I seem to be reading them out. A question for everyone. Tell us about any hobbies or interests that you have for publication that one can talk about.
Barry Jackson is a Tumblr.
No, was a
He's
Tumblr.
an
old man now.
Transvestite. Oh, you've stopped that now.
No, I did play a transvestite. I was at
did you?
Marks at the Dunmar. I played a sort of transsexual.
Great.
When this thing Horace came out,
Yeah.
I knew that I would be uncastable, because this character was like, he was going, "Just got a joke, I've got a joke for you," and he was just like that sort of character. So I thought, there's no way, because in this business, if they see you playing something and they like it, they cast you in other things that are similar. And I remember the only thing that I got off from the BBC Two Horace, which was the character that I created in '70, I was offered to do there aren't many subnormals around. I was offered to do an insane character in an asylum. I was asked to do another deaf mute in something else. It's extraordinary how they relate to you, and so I knew when I knew that when I'd done that, then when I'd done Horace, that I had to be I took this job as a transvestite. What's that say?
It just says it's typical acting. I say yes, and the question is twisted round to when I was playing this.
I'm sorry.
It was my fault for you mentioned
What do we do
transvestite. Tell us about any hobbies or interests that you've had.
Well, I like timber, wood.
You do, that's right.
And I've got 2 allotments. I grow my own vegetables. I've done for years. So that's me, really, gardening and carpentry. Good.
I used to play footy for years and years and years. Sunday football team. Thought I was George Best or something, but I was dreadful. I used to run our own Sunday football team, and that was when you were on the pitch. You really thought it was Wembley. It was big, and then it went to squash, which I enjoyed until I got a ball in the eye, and then finally golf, which is I mean, it's all consuming. I think it's ridiculous. I never used to. Used to. I thought, oh no, that's for old. I suppose yes, I'm an old man, but that's for old guys, But it's the most difficult game I've ever had to play. God, it's difficult.
But it's a lovely game
Fascinating.
because you cannot think about anything else while you're playing it.
Yeah.
And so it does empty you. It's a wonderfully cathartic game.
Yeah. And I can work with wood. So it's satisfying to actually to make or build something out of wood, whether it's a cupboard or a staircase or whatever, or something like that. But yeah, there we are. I suppose.
I do.
You
draw
draw
colours.
Do you? Ah, yes. So the
Focus on my
camera pan round to his watercolours.
An insect.
No. And I play golf.
Do you play golf
Yeah.
as well? That's great.
Go on.
What's your,
Also, I like working with wood too.
what's your handicap, golf handicap?
My youth
Well, no.
efficiency. 18.
Ooh, that's not bad.
No, I don't play to it.
What, round a proper course, 18, that's not bad
No,
at all.
I don't play to it.
Who was it? Before Morecambe Wise was Ben Warris and
Oh, yes,
Jimmy Jewell.
Yeah.
great double act.
Yeah.
And I worked with Ben Warris. I played Archie Rice in a tantour, and Ben Warris was my dad. Amazing presence, although I couldn't remember the lines, but he was an amazing presence on stage. It was a privilege to be with him. But he had every theatre we were in, he had wonderful stories. And one was just golf stories. They played golf, of course. All comedians played golf.
Yes, they do.
And that's how Al Reed became Al Reed, because Al Reed could afford, to play golf, and he had a sausage factory, didn't he?
So
But
he did.
anyway,
So he did. Yeah.
Tommy Cooper felt very left out, and Ben Warris and they used to get Tommy into the dressing room for a laugh, and they used to say, "Come on, Tommy, show us your tricks. What have you got, sir?" And Tommy Cooper would do these tricks, and and they would fail. So they said, it's silly being a straight. You've got to do this act. They were very good at picking people up and telling them what they should do for their act. In fact, Morecambe and Wise, they said to Morecambe and Wise, sharpen up, buy your decent suits, you're slovenly. They were on the bottom of the bill that they were top of. And they were an amazing act, Ben Warris. But they said that, so Tommy felt very left out because everybody was playing golf. Tommy didn't get up too well in the morning. But anyway, Tommy went off and got some +4s and some clubs. You can imagine him getting on the stuff. And he knew where they were, the club. And he got there and there's nobody there. And he's with all his
stuff on,
all his stuff looking silly. And the people peek out on the top of his big head and his big feet and his big back clubs. And there's nobody there. Well, in the distance, they're all coming back because they've been there since 8 o'clock. But it's 11 o'clock and they're all finished. And it's another trick gone wrong. He said, "I'm not playing this game," and he went off. And that's their story of Tommy Cooper. Wonderful.
All right.
Gosh, I do digress.
No, sure. those stories rather than us. If you really were marooned on a jungle planet like Kemble in Mission to the Unknown,
Campbell, is that the name?
what luxury would each of you most desire?
Gosh, I'd love to say like Spike Milligan, a Barclay card.
The Barclay
You remember when he said that on Desert
Yeah.
Islanders? I'm not that clever.
It's a tough one.
Sudbrook Park.
Is what?
Sudbrook Park on a set of golf clubs.
Oh, I see.
And a number of balls.
Yes.
Yeah.
A jungle planet.
But if I wasn't allowed that, I'd just take an 8-iron and an endless supply.
golf balls, yeah.
Yes.
I don't know.
I don't know what
We'll have
I'd
to
take.
leave
I'm
that
a
one.
bit serious.
I'm
I'd probably take an axe or something.
An axe.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
yeah,
They were very
to make a canoe. To get off the island. This is the last one, I think. Not a bad one for the last one. Any unfulfilled ambitions?
Well, it's on you, Ted.
Oh, well, no, I'm the last person to ask about ambitions because I have none. I never have had any, and so I still don't.
I'm not. I think as an actor, it's very difficult when you say it, but actors always want to work, and the problem with acting is that we're largely unemployed, or we don't work as much as we would
Speak for
like.
yourself.
Well, okay, I do
No,
speak
that's
for
not-
myself,
that's all right.
but it's true in a sense,
yeah.
isn't it? And we would all have liked to have worked more. I would love to have worked more, and it's all a little bit. It's all a little bit of history now for me. So I don't think I have very much ambition in that way because I've seen so much of it. What about you?
I'd like to be an actor.
You'd like to be an actor?
One day I'll be an actor. No, I don't. I'm not keen on acting. I haven't been for ages actually. I like directing, very very much, and teaching. I've been doing a lot of drama teaching, and it's nice to sort of see young faces appearing on the box that you think, oh, that's one of my students, or so that's good. I mean, I had a terrible ambition because I wanted to play. Always wanted to play Hamlet. And I was never chosen to play Hamlet. I've been in 3 productions, and Ian Richardson's Hamlet I was in, actually at Birmingham Rep, his first Hamlet. And I thought, when I was a young actor, I was
The old Rep,
this is
the
old Rep, that's right, yeah. And I was a young actor who'd gone up there, and I was playing that terrible part at the end, Fortinbras, I'm waiting that play to come on. It's Fortinbras, the young prince who comes on at the end. And Ian was getting a lot of colds going around. He was getting more and more flu in his voice, and I was thinking. So I started to learn Hamlet.
You did?
I thought
You weren't official understudy.
No understudies. You see, and I thought there's no understudies. That's it. And I'll know the part. And if Ian's off, they'll sort of say, "Oh my God," and I'll say, "Oh, I know the part." He was never off. No. I played Claudius, which is not a bad second prize. The king in Hamlet. Yeah, I enjoyed, but obviously, it's not sort of a burning ambition. But apart from that, I don't know. You're always looking ahead, really, aren't you? I remember Sybil Thorndike when she was about 90.
You didn't understudy her.
No, that's not good enough. But she, I always remember her giving a speech. She was opening Leatherhead Theatre, the Thorndike Theatre at Leatherhead. And I don't know, she got to be about 80 something then, I suppose. But her speech was all about the future and looking forward. Not about the past, not what parts I'd played, and I'm glad this theatre's named after me because of the traditions of the theatre. It was all what she was going to play in the future.
Yeah.
And so therefore it's unfulfilled ambition all the time. You're always looking, I suppose, to direct. For me, it's to direct.
She was wonderfully naive, and she was always looking at it. She studied Greek and Latin right till the very end of her life. But there was a wonderful story that somebody told me. They were sitting in the theatre, I don't know what theatre it was, some West End theatre, at a matinee, and they were suddenly aware that it was Sybil Thorndike and Louis Casson sitting there in front of them. And the lights went down, and Sybil said, "Oh, I do love a play."
Nice.
But God knows what age. But I mean the enthusiasm of it.
Actually, I'd like to be David Beckham.
You'd like to have been David Beckham.
But not for posh pies, but I mean for actually to be a footballer.
Well,
I
not
always
from what they
wanted-
were
I mean,
shouting at
and
him
to be-
after the match.
Doesn't matter. To be able to have that sublime talent,
Mm.
I must say that is an unfulfilled. Well, it just wasn't good enough. But yes, or somebody like that, and of course George Best, or that. Yes. I'd love to see something really well, something like a master or mistress or whatever you like to call it of their craft, and to see it, or even if it's woodwork or
Whatever,
you know,
yes.
to see and painting. I'd love to be able to paint. I'll play a musical instrument.
So
can't.
would I.
Yeah. Oh, come on. But to play a musical instrument, I've never been able to. But yes, to be on the wing, you know, at Wembley, scoring the winning goal,
There you
the
are,
cup
then.
final. Wow.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm out. I'm finished. I can't think of anything else. That's it.
Have we finished all our pieces?
There's no more
Sure,
paper.
yeah.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
And you
So
feet
it's,
are gone to sleep.
Just about.
Say good night. Say good night to the folks, Barry.
Yes, good night, folks. Good night, folks.
It's good night from him, and it's good night from me.